Trade rumors are starting to swirl. Let's talk about them next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at SouthsideShowdown.com. And also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Smash the like button. Also follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, leave a 5-star review. Well, you and I both know this season is going, well, terribly. The good news is Luis Robert Jr. is back from the injured list, and I'll discuss that and the roster moves the team made yesterday in the second segment. But the big news that has come out is there are trade rumors out there that the Sox are open to trading pretty much anyone on the roster. The Athletic also has a report on a team interested in Garrett Crochet. I'll discuss that along with ESPN's Jeff Passan's write-up about the Sox being open for business come the trade deadline. And then it's way back Wednesday. And with the Sox playing the Cubs, let's discuss if the Cubs have come out the winners in the last two major trades these two crosstown rivals pulled off. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, Jeff Passan just put out his early 2024 MLB trade deadline preview. He listed the White Sox at the top of his 7 teams he put in the unloader category. Now, the Sox are at the top because he also went in alphabetical order by city. But still, they are listed along with the Rockies, Angels, Marlins, Mets, Athletics, and Nationals. Those are going to be the for sure sellers, according to Passan. And it makes sense since they're all pretty much at the bottom of the standings. Now, if you do not have an ESPN Plus subscription, because that's what you need to access this article, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. And also, if you don't have ESPN Plus, I highly suggest getting it. It's totally worth it. Especially, it's worth it once college football season starts. You take that all the way through to hockey season ending. So basically, you don't need it for like 2 months. It's almost like if you could pick and choose what you wanted on your cable package monthly. That's what the great thing about streaming is. He has Tommy Pham as the most certain player to be moved. However, this was published before he went on the IL, and I'll get to that in the next segment. And also, there's some worries that his Sunday outburst could hurt his trade value. I don't think it really is. I mean, Brewers manager Pat Murphy even said that's one of the things he loves about Tommy Pham. So, anyways, Passan said the Sox will have no sacred cows. He says the Sox are willing to deal Luis Robert Jr., Eric Fedde, and Garrett Crochet. Others that could be in play are Michael Kopech, Tim Hill, Paul DeYoung, and Mike Clevenger if he can come back from the IL and he's effective. Although we all know that Mike Clevenger is defective. Bob Nightingale earlier this year or earlier in the season did say that the Sox would also like to move pitcher Chris Flexon. Now, the Athletics' Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal, they've also reported the San Diego Padres are showing interest in Garrett Crochet. And if you don't have a subscription, well, then you are probably a Sox fan, as that organization laid off James Fegan and punted at covering the Sox last year. So you really only get Sox coverage now when there's news like this. And that's kind of sad. And again, that has shown you just how far the Sox have fallen off the radar. That a sports site, and a very good sports site, is like, yeah, we're not covering this team in the third biggest market. So here's the Cliff Notes version. As again, I'm probably speaking to an audience that is probably not going to sign up for a subscription, although they do have great Bears and Blackhawks content. But the Padres need pitching after Joe Musgrave and Yu Darvish went on the IL. Padres president A.J. Preller is known to be aggressive. He's already traded for Dylan Cease before the season started. and he got Luis Ariz from the Marlins earlier in May. But here's the thing you need to know about any White Sox trade rumor. Fegan, who's now with SoxMachine.com, said on 670 The Score on Monday with Bernstein and Holmes that the front office is trying to acquire talent closer to Double A or talent that is ready, pretty much ready to contribute at the major league level. Now, it's going to be hard to get a premium player that close, as Fegan said, because no team is going to part with, say, Gunnar Henderson when he was getting close. So what it means is the prospects that you might get back are going to possibly come with some risk. And in terms of the risk being, they might be low ceiling players. High floor, but low ceiling. Drew Thorpe, for example, he's got a very high floor, but his lack of velocity does have people questioning whether he'll be a top of a rotation pitcher. Iro Hiriarte, he can throw some smoke, and that was the guy that they got also in the Dylan Cease trade. But a lot of people see him, a lot of scouts see him potentially as just being a closer or a high leverage bullpen arm. And it also reflects that general manager Chris Getz is probably going to have a high asking price at first, but he might have to come off that price if he wants to get near Double A and Triple A talent. Also, it means the Sox are probably going to be sacrificing going for guys with high ceilings. And that could hurt, for example, Tommy Pham's trade market. Pham went for a high ceiling prospect last year when the Mets traded him to the Diamondbacks. Now, here's the thing you and I need to take into account as well. Garrett Crochet doesn't need to be moved right away, as Rosenthal and Lynn have wrote. And there's a lot of people I know in the White Sox Twitter world that says, let's move Crochet now. It's kind of the same thing with Dylan Cease. You should ask for a lot because you don't have to move him now. Now, the Sox were able to get pretty much their price, but they could have held on to him and traded him at the deadline, for example. The risk, though, is, just like with Crochet, potential injury ruining his value. But he's under team control for a couple more years. Plus, as Nick Morawski and I said on yesterday's show, Crochet is in his first year as a starter, and he just threw the most career pitches in his last start. So he is under severe innings limits. There's talk that they might even bring him out of the bullpen in, like, say, September. Plus, in Rosenthal and Lynn's report, for the White Sox to trade Crochet, what they're hearing is they would likely require at least one positional prospect with significant upside. And again, if Fegan's saying the Sox want to get a guy that's close to Double A or Triple A, it's really hard to get those guys off of contending teams. You really got to get a team that's willing to push all its chips to the middle. And for the Padres, their top hitting prospects are at A-ball, so they might not be a fit for the Sox. Although Rosenthal and Lynn did point out that the Padres do still have some really good young arms. They can move that to other teams to get some young bats, maybe be part of a 3-team trade, or maybe the Sox will say, hey, we'll take some starting pitching instead. Luis Robert Jr.'s market. We know that there has been reports that the Seattle Mariners were interested in adding Luis. Before fans rush to hope that he can bring back a massive return, last season was the first year he played over 100 games and avoided a lengthy stay on the injured list. He's already missed pretty much 2 months this year. And also, last season was the first time he lived up to his immense potential. And he's not a very patient hitter at the plate. So there could be some back and forth in the negotiations there. Now, Eric Fetty makes sense to move him, as I've said a few times on the show. John Heyman was on the Score yesterday, and he believes Fetty could land the Sox a good haul of players, as this is going to be a seller's market for starting pitching. For example, Passan has the Angels possibly moving Tyler Anderson. The Rockies could move Cal Quantrill and Austin Gomber. The Marlins are obviously going to dangle their entire starting rotation, including Jesus Luzardo. The A's can move Paul Blackburn, Ross Stripling, and Alex Wood. And the Nationals could put Trevor Williams on the market. What you just don't want to have happen is the Tigers become sellers and they move Jack Flaherty, and the Astros. You want to hope that they rejoin the race and don't sell Framber Valdez. And who needs pitching? Well, Passan lists out the Brewers as the starting rotation has been hit with injuries. The Orioles as well, since Tyler Wells and John Means are out for the year. The Atlanta Braves as well, as some executives around the league are saying that Sale and Ronaldo Lopez are bound for regression. You got Charlie Morton at 40 years old, and obviously Spencer Strider's season is over with Tommy John surgery. What makes sense? I would say you trade Flexen, DeYoung, Pham. You hope Kopech starts using a secondary pitch to become a more effective closer. And obviously, you could try to move Tim Hill. The only untouchable should be Corey Lee, just because he's under team control for years. And if he continues to hit, you can rotate him at catcher and DH for years to come. I say you keep Crochet and Luis Robert Jr. through the season. One, we need players to watch. As Josh Nelson of Sox Machine has tweeted out at Sox Machine, the Sox might draw less than a million fans next year if Crochet and Robert Jr. are not on the team. I do think maybe you owe it to explore in the offseason what you could get, but not right now. Plus, they can still be pieces you build around. You don't have a lot of guaranteed contracts. Maybe you can flip things around quickly and you'll still have them under team control through 2027. You actually should try to extend Crochet. And the only reason you would want to even trade him is you get an offer you can't refuse, or Crochet says, I'm being represented by Scott Boras. But speaking of Robert Jr., let's discuss his return and if that return will help turn around the Sox from being historically bad to maybe fun bad, along with the roster moves the Sox made yesterday. Next, Locked On White Sox. Well, this season might be awful, but you can still make some memories by taking in a game at the ballpark. Nick Morosky was on the show yesterday and talked about how he had a great time at a game this season. He went with his family and took his kid, and his kid just had an amazing time, and it was a great memory. And Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so that way you know if you're getting good seats. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the White Sox wrap up a two-game set against crosstown rival Chicago Cubs. First pitch tonight is at 7:05 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter, and thank you for making the show your first listen every day. Lots of great White Sox podcasts out there. Again, I just hope I'm the first one you take in every day. You always remember your first podcast of the day. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Smash that like button. Also follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, leave a 5-star review. Well, the Sox had their star player back in Luis Robert Jr. He's been out of the lineup since April 5th when he strained his hip flexor. And hopefully no more trips to the IL this season. I don't think I can take watching that lineup without him. But is it enough to at least get the Sox back to being fun bad? Like that 11-8 stretch before this brutal 39-game stretch of schedule started. That's when they were fun bad. Remember that? Seems like a lifetime ago. Seems like everything is a lifetime ago with how bad the Sox get. How they just keep finding new rock bottoms. You think, oh, they're done digging. Nope. And then it just makes like that the previous rock bottom, seem like years ago. And let's remember what Luis Robert Jr. did last season. He was a 4.9 F4 player, had a WRC plus of 128, 38 home runs. He slugged 542, a BABIP of 314 with an ISO of 278. That means he's truly a valuable player. Could have won the MVP had the White Sox not been terrible and Shohei Ohtani not been in the American League. The Sox need guys to put the ball in the air. He had 2 home runs in the second, I believe it was the second or third game of the season against the Tigers. And he also went on the IL with a 500 slugging percentage. He was 6 defensive run saves last year and 13 outs above average. His Fangraphs value, plus 20.2 at the plate, plus 6.7 fielding. He was overall plus 8.7 defensively. And he was 49.2 runs above replacement. So just imagine, this is what hopefully the Sox get back. They need this guy for the rest of the season. Now, he's not going to be a savior. I mean, the Sox are 5-9 this year in one-run games, so maybe his presence could have flipped maybe 1 or 2 of those games. But he is a bona fide talent, and he should have the talent to at least boost the worst offense in baseball. Although I don't know if him alone is going to be able to get them completely out of the basement in 5 offensive categories. He gave you some offensive production last night against the Cubs. He had a hit and scored during that 5-run 5th inning. The Sox also made some other roster moves yesterday. Tommy Pham and Dominic Fletcher go to the 10-day IL. Pham, he's on the injured list with a sprained ankle on that terrible send I talked about on Monday. Fletcher, he's on the IL with a shoulder injury he had on that amazing grab to rob a home run on Sunday. Kind of talked about that as well on Monday's show. Outfielder Zach DeLoach is back up, and the Sox also brought up Duke Ellis. Now, that is an amazing baseball name. The Duke. They did need to add him to the 40-man roster, so Zach Remillard, he gets DFA'd again. Poor Zach Remillard. I mean, at what point do you just stop accepting your assignment and just say, you know what, I'm going to elect free agency? I mean, he's a classic 4A player, so I give him credit for sticking around, but this is, I think, the 3rd time he's been DFA'd. And I would have said the Sox designated the wrong player for assignment, as Lenyn Sosa would be my candidate, but he hit a 2-run homer yesterday. So, hey, for one night, I would have been wrong. Here's the report from Fegan on X/Twitter and then Chuck Garfien on Duke Ellis. This is what James Fegan said at JR Fegan. The 26-year-old is hitting 258, 341, 308 at Double-A, but is a speed and defense merchant. 34 for 35 in stolen bases on the season. And then this is what Chuck Garfien said at Chuck Garfien. Wow, Duke Ellis has been one of the most exciting players in the White Sox minor league system this year. A total menace on the base paths. And hey, with the expanded bases, you kind of need to steal some bases. And the Sox just need to be better on the base path in general. So hopefully Ellis can help in that area. But the thing is, Southside Sox is the only one that had a ranking on him. And they had him ranked as the Sox 84th best prospect coming into the season. And the comp they gave him was Billy Hamilton. Now, they did say it in the context of what Billy Hamilton could do once he got on base. The problem was Billy Hamilton couldn't hit and barely got on base. But when he got on base, man, that guy flew around the base paths. Now, hopefully, Ellis can do better on the base, getting on base and just be better overall hitting. And also, injuries in 2023 sort of hampered his stock, but he's going to provide speed, and more speed. Deloach, he played in 3 games for the Sox so far, had just a walk. But Corey Julks, for sure, he gets playing time as it is needed. Andrew Vaughn is going to gut it out with that finger injury. Had a few hits yesterday. And it also means then Gavin Sheets is going to have to go back to right field. But I say rotate Sheets in between first, right, and DH until you get Pham back. You can get Corey Lee's bat in on the nights you have to put Maldonado in at catcher. Why is Maldonado on this team? I don't know. And then you can put Sheets in right. And the nights you put Sheets at first to let Vaughn's finger heal up a bit more, you rotate Deloach and Ellison. And then you obviously put Corey Lee in at catcher. Deloach is going to be an on-base guy. Ellis is the speed guy, so you can use them also late in the game. Well, it's Wednesday, so let's go back. Let's go way back. It's way back Wednesday. Let's go back to 2 huge deals the Sox and Cubs made in recent memory and see who won those deals. Next, Locked On White Sox. Hey, it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Right now, the over-under on the White Sox final win total is 51.5 the last time I checked, and it was plus 104 on the over, minus 138 on the under. I think a historically bad season has no value, but if you want to put some money on a 50-win season or less, then you can get some personal value to gain. Like, say, if you want to put $50 for 50 wins or less, you could possibly win $36.23. Hey, you're close to 100 in my opinion, and not only that, can't hurt to at least make some money off the White Sox being historically bad. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And the White Sox wrap up a 2-game set against the crosstown rival Chicago Cubs. First pitch is at 7:05 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast on the SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. Appreciate you sticking with me this far. Shout out to all my everydayers. Saw someone in the comments saying, they almost bought a Brewers hat when they went to a Brewers game on Sunday. They just couldn't do it. And I got to respect that. I got to respect the people that truly love the White Sox. I truly love them. Although, again, I've adopted the Brewers as my second team. But as I keep saying, you work there for 11 years in their ballpark. They give you a paycheck. You can adopt them as your second team. And that's what I told that commenter. Yeah, usually if you want a step team, it's got to be grown organically. Maybe you've lived in another city that has a team. Like I know Herb Lawrence, former host here on Locked On White Sox, now on CHGO. He's a big Padres fan too, because he lived in San Diego for a little bit. So, but one thing you can never be a fan of is both the Sox and the Cubs. I'm just sorry. It cannot happen. You got to pick a side. You can be united with the Bears, but when it comes to baseball, pick a side. And now the Sox and Cubs have made some impactful trades with each other. The Sox traded Sammy Sosa to the Cubs for George Bell. Matt Karchner got the Sox John Garland. And I figured since it's Wednesday, I always do way back Wednesdays, why not we revisit 2 of the most recent trades the Sox and Cubs did and see who came out the winner. Now, the Cubs clearly won the Sosa deal. I don't care about the steroid, allegations, all that stuff around Sosa. He turned out to be a Hall of Fame worthy player. Now we know he may have used some enhancements to get there, but the Sox only got so much out of George Bell, and the Cubs got an icon. The Sox, on the other hand, they won the Garland trade. John Garland helped them win the 2005 World Series. That's why I want to go over the 2 most recent notable trades between the crosstown rivals. So let's start in the winter of 2017. The Sox traded Jose Quintana for Eloy Jimenez, Dylan Cease, Matt Rose, and Bryant Fleety, who doesn't matter. Matt Rose and Bryant Fleet are no longer even in baseball. Now, this is an interesting one to rate, as Quintana did help the Cubs get back to the NLCS in 2017. And I think a lot of people forget the Cubs did get back to the National League Championship Series. He won Game 3 of the NLDS against the Nationals, and he had a 4.24 ERA in 4 seasons on the north side and a 3.93 FIP, 3.93 FIP, sorry. But one of the reasons the Cubs only walked away with one World Series title during their contention window was the lack of developing starting pitching, especially towards the end of that Coors run of Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Wilson Contreras, and Javier Baez. So maybe having Eloy and Cease would have helped get the Cubs another title. At the very least, I do believe they don't lose to the Marlins in the 2020 wild card round. Cease nearly won the AL Cy Young in 2022, but on the other hand, he was inconsistent for the most part on the south side. Now, this trade will get some legs for the Sox as they did move Cease to the Padres for 3 talented prospects. I talked about Thorpe and Iriarte in the first segment, at least briefly. Eloy is an extremely talented hitter, probably the best power hitter on the team, but he's always hurt. And that is why you have to declare the Cubs the winner, as Eloy's injuries is a big reason the title window slammed shut quickly. So yeah, we gotta declare the Cubs the win in that Quintana deal. The Sox then traded for Craig Kimbrel in 2021. Now the hope was to pair him up with Liam Hendriks to put together a dominant late inning bullpen. Problem was Tony La Russa still managed them traditionally, and Kimbrel was never comfortable in the 8th. What they should have had is probably Kimbrel be the closer. You use Hendriks for 2 inning saves. You should have probably used Crochet. I mean, not Crochet. You could have used him. He was there. But you should have used Kopech, Hendriks, then Kimbrel. And if Kimbrel wasn't available, then you go with Hendriks. But that never happened because Tony, I just want to forget about that. So it looked like the Cubs were going to win the trade as the Sox sent them Nick Madrigal and Cody Hoyer. But Cody, he had future closer written all over him, but injuries derailed that, and he was non-tendered in 2023. And Madrigal has been demoted back to AAA. He has a career slash line on the north side of 251, 304, and 312. And for a contact hitter, that is terrible numbers. And he's probably a 4A player. So let's call that a wash. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Before I go, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And I'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the series between the Cubs and the Sox and go over the upcoming series against Boston. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube page at Locked On White Sox. Smash that like button and give a 5-star review on wherever you get your podcasts. And also feel free to leave comments about today's topics regarding the recent trade rumors, Luis Robert Jr.'s return, and Way Back Wednesday. You can leave them on Twitter at ToddJDub or email me at LockedOnWhiteSox@gmail.com. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.